if nobody else did.
Yeah. Let's do this. So, you guys want to bring out that math?
Yeah, the video came out fine.
That's good. Okay. And then we'll go over any questions you guys had over that math, and then once we address any questions, I'll take it up here. So we're doing module 1. Hey, what number you got, Nikki?
I think it's on the top
Which,
Thursday.
so on Thursday, hopefully that fire alarm will stop eventually. Is it number 1 or which number? Number 1. So Thursday, number 1. All right. What's the question say?
It say if AW is 1.97 inches
All right.
feet,
Yep.
what is AW in percentage?
Okay.
And I said I thought you couldn't get it without the FC.
No. So this we're just gonna convert. So last class we talked about this. If you want to go inches per foot to a percent, you're gonna divide by 12, and then percent to inches per foot, we multiply by 12.
Oh, so I just went too deep.
Yeah. So yeah, you went too far in the deep end.
Too far.
So if we're just going inches per foot, we'll take the 1.97, and we will divide by 12. And someone have a calculator? Let me know what this
I
is.
thought that's what it was, but I just went too far.
Let's see here.
16.4%.
16.4? 16.4%. Someone double check that. Okay. I trust Chris a little bit, but not a lot yet. So 16.4%. Okay. Okay. So. All right. Someone else got another one? One you're not sure about? Or I'm just that good, there's no questions. Just 100%. A plus. So are we good on module 1? Okay. Let's do this. I'm going to do 1 or 2 from module 2. Does anybody have that or can pull it up? Let me see. I might be able to pull it up on my end here. So that way, when we get into module 2, you guys feel good about it here. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Pull it up here. This one won't be due for a few weeks, but I want to give you guys a heads up on some of the equations here. Morning. Okay.
When you're doing these equations, you can do them by hand, but when you're in a real world scenario,
You probably won't do them. Yeah, it's just one of those things that it's like a calculator, right? The calculator will do the work for you, but you still kind of want to know what the calculator is doing. And so the idea is that in the real world, will you actually calculate this for soil? Probably not. You'll probably have a gauge. You'll probably have a sensor. You know the one I showed you guys with the wires and the little kind of cylinder at the end. Let me see if I got here. Okay. I show you this to you guys yet? Yeah, maybe. Okay, I'll show it to you again. Either way. So this is pretty old too. And so the way this works is we want to check the moisture in the ground. We want to check it, below. So whether it's 1 feet, 2, 3, or 5, or so on, there's this gauge. I don't know what the actual gauge is actually called. Probably has an official name. Soil moisture meter. You can pass it around. So what'll happen is that you have this little, I don't know which one to call it, this device at the end. It's filled with, I think it's gypsum. It's the same stuff you put in drywall. what happens is you soak it in water. And then when you put it in the ground, what happens is you'll take a 1/2 inch PVC pipe, put it on the end here. You can do 1 foot, 2, probably up to 3 feet. And this will go in the actual soil really deep. And it's got these two little kind of little ends here. That gauge will clip to the end of this. And what happens when the soil gets dry, it wants to pull the water from this device, which is soaked. So this is all wet. When the soil dries out, it will pull on this and they can measure it. Those little clips will go on the end here. I don't know the range. Brett probably does. But the idea is that instead of me having to calculate how much water is in the soil, I would just check. I'd put the gauge on here. This would stick out of the ground, probably like this much, out of like a piece of pipe. I put that on there. It's within my range. I know that there's water down below. I might have this, maybe one at 6 feet, maybe one at 3 feet, so I can check to see if there's water at where the roots are actually at. And I'll just check it with that gauge, and I'll log it, and I'll see if it's within a range. And if it's within a range, then I know there's more moisture down there on that. So super basic tool. There's probably more advanced stuff, but these are cheap, and you can put them on different spots around the farm. But the idea is you just check it with the gauge. It's within the range, and then we're good to go. But what that's doing is checking this. It's actually doing the math for you.
So it's cheating for you.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, it's not really cheating, but you're not going to actually probably compute this type of math maybe once, if ever. But the idea is you'll have these around the farm. You check those. And there's probably ones now that probably will hook up to the Wi-Fi and send it to a chart or let you know if it's out of range, so you actually don't have to check it anymore. Because this is probably, I don't know, at least 30 years old. And so it's nothing new on that. It's just nice too because they're cheap and they're super basic, so there's not a whole lot going on. But it's something that it's a pretty handy tool to use.
So you put it inside of a PV.
Yeah, because you got to get down into the ground, right? You can dig a hole if you wanted to, but what we would do is just that fitting fits a PVC pipe. Put the wires to the pipe, so now it's on a long rod, and you can hammer it into the ground, and so that way you're not having to dig a big hole and then put it in there.
So some people probably put those in, have that set when you set your gardens up.
Yeah, like you would do it once, you do it one time, and they don't really go bad. The gauge would probably go bad first, and then you check it every now and then. It's not every day.
What is the temperature factor?
I couldn't tell you. Does it have a gauge for it on the?
Temperature setting.
Yeah, I mean, I could see if maybe somewhere you had frost, it might be a problem, but I'd imagine usually soil and water that's under frost level stays pretty stable. So I couldn't tell you what would help be on that. Let's see here. All right. And that's one way to check the moisture in the soil, but the idea is that this math is what we're actually checking for on that. So to answer your question, you'll use it probably once, if ever, on that. So, and then if you do want to look into that certification, that CAIS one that we talked about for irrigation, that is this math. That's part of the exam on it. So yep. All right. Any other questions on that while we're passing?
So this is the math you got to do for the exam.
Yeah, if you looking at that certification through the Irrigation Association, so CAIS, Certified Agricultural Irrigation Specialist, this math is pulled from that test.
Okay.
And
so
so
not too bad.
well, this is part of it. This is like the
It get harder.
yeah, that's right. This is like the first 20% of it. It gets into leaching salts through soil and so on. They get pretty complex, but if you're doing this math and you find it really easy and maybe even enjoy it, then look into that irrigation stuff, because farmers will pay a good amount to have you do that for them.
Is there like a book that you can study for that?
Oh yeah. So just go to the Irrigation Association's website and then you can search that CAIS.
I felt like I was in high school again.
Trying to make you feel young, Chris.
Yeah.
Scratching my head. 12 o'clock at night trying to do this crap.
Let's see what we got here.
I think it would have been more relatable for me as the examples you did in class. Like, okay, you have this much of an acre, then you want to know.
Like the one we did last week?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that makes more sense. It's like, all right, well, how do I actually apply this?
Yeah.
And so and watch that recording for it, because I don't want to do the whole thing all over again. But the idea is like, all right, if we want to put 1 inch of water in the ground, how do we do it? And so we can figure that out. And do you guys remember how many gallons are in an acre of inch of water? If it rains an inch, remember that number?
27,152.
There we go, 27152. Oh, I emailed out a link. Yeah, it's just a link on that. So 27152 is a handy one. And then anybody know how many square feet are in an acre? I always just remember 7-Eleven. Because 43,560 feet per acre. 7-Eleven, 43560 is 11. So if you just remember 7-Eleven, you'll remember how many square feet are an acre. So this one's a handy one, and then the inches, the gallons to inches for that. Yep, and then the 1 inch of water over an acre, 27152 gallons. So you could actually probably figure out how many gallons you're going to get when you get rain on your roof. Because say your roof is, in our dreams, 8,000 square feet, which is not. Say it's more like 1,500 square feet. We can actually compute how big a rain barrel we would need if we got an inch of rain. Here we don't ever really get an inch of rain. But if it does happen, you'd know how much space you need in your barrels to collect that water on that. So, yeah. So 27152 is an easy one. So yeah. All right. So let's do this. I'm going to do 1 question or 2 questions from Module 2, so you guys can have a head start on that. Okay, so I'm just pulling one from, let's see here. All right. So the first thing I'll let you guys know about is you're going to have some new terms. And so currently we have FC, PWP, AW. What's PWP? Which means what? Just in layman's terms. Just
Not enough water.
yeah, it's when all the water's gone and it's when the plants are going to start to die. FC, field capacity, we remember that if we took a foot of soil, so this is 12 inches, here's our beautiful plant. We have our roots here. 12-inch soil, FC, field capacity is what we shoot for as a grower. PWP, we avoid as a grower. And the AW is the range between the two of them on that. So, but we all know that most roots go past a foot, right? So how do we actually account if it's more than a foot? And so what happens, we introduce the term. It's related to the AW, it's the PAW. So this is the plant available water. Available water. So PAW, remember FC, we can write in inches per foot or percent. Same with PW or PWP, and same with AW. Plant available water likes to be in inches. The plant available water takes into account the root zone. So the root zone, we can realistically be like, all right, how much available water do I have for my avocado tree that has 2 feet of roots? Because that's a realistic number that I can use. And so you might have an equation. We'll say is if I have available water is 1.27 inches per foot, my root zone for my plant we'll say is 3 feet. What is my PAW? So you want to solve for the plant available water for a root zone of a plant that has 3 feet. So all you do is you have a formula, which is AW times RZ. I'd put this on your cheat sheet if you have one, equals PAW. So available water times my root zone equals PAW. One thing to put a star by is that RZ is easier to solve when it's in feet. All right, we like it in feet. If it's in inches, we need to convert to feet, because if it's in inches and we solve it, we're going to end up with square roots, which we don't want. So if I give you, say, the RZ is equal to 36 inches, in your mind, automatically convert that to feet, which is 3 feet. So if it's given to you in inches, just know the RZ, when we're solving the equation, we want it in feet because it's easier to work out the equation. All right. So feet is our first choice. And so
for RZ is feet automatically?
Yeah, well, it might be given to you in inches, so the equation might say 36 inches. Just convert to feet, just divide by 12 on that. And so AW, available water, is 1.27 inches per foot. RZ is 3 feet. What's 1.27 times 3? 3.81. So 3.81 inches. So PAW will always be in inches. All right. So 3.81 inches. Mathematically, what's happening here is the feet are canceling out. But just if you just remember that PAW we want in inches, you'll be in the right in the right spot there. Okay. And like we talked about last week, 3.81 inches, I can apply that to a field. We can go to the gallons per hour and so on, but this is something I can actually use. So what this is saying is that for this root depth, so say this is 12 inches, this is 12 inches, this is 12 inches. Got our plant here. So what this is saying is that there's 1.27 here, 1.27 here, 1.27 here. Together, I have about 4 inches based off these 3 feet of roots. That's what we're solving for on that. So, sound like a parrot. Okay. All right. So this is an equation that you might see. Another term you guys might see on this module 2 math is MAD, which is manageable allowable depletion. Manageable allowable depletion, which is basically a choice the grower makes, the amount of water he's going to let leave or her leave the soil before we irrigate again. So this is always going to be in a percent, forever and ever. All right. This is just a choice. It's a subjective choice that the grower makes that based off my access to water and how much water costs me, I'm going to let almost all the water evaporate before I irrigate again. We don't do this too much in LA County and San Diego County because the cost of water. And so what happens is, as a grower, I might let 20% leave before I irrigate again. So I would have let 20% leave and then I'd turn on the irrigation. Compared to if I'm in like Yuma, Arizona, which I think water is really cheap there, or Imperial Valley, I might have an MAD of 80%. So I decide I let 80% of the water evaporate and then I flood the field because water's cheap. And so if water's expensive, I'm just going to let a little bit leave and then I'll irrigate again. So I'm irrigating more on a schedule, maybe every other day, versus somewhere where the water's cheap and I can get it whenever I want it. I might let 80% go and I just flood the whole field and then I'm good on that. So If you guys ever seen flood irrigation, it's exactly that. They open up the gates, it floods the field. But usually it floods in between the plant sites. I don't see flood irrigation, if ever, in San Diego County or LA County, just because of the cost of water. And so, but the idea is that most of where water is expensive and you want to kind of use only what you have to, your MAD will be a lot lower, and usually there's like micro sprinklers or drip irrigation on that. So yeah. So MAD. And then, is there any other terms? I think those are the only new ones for Module 2. So, okay, so let me pull up this one example. So, this one is going to be from Thursday on Module 2, number 3. So, Thursday, this was number 3 here. Okay, number 3. This one says, what is the PAW? We're solving for the PAW. If the MAD is 33%, RZ is 52 inches, and the SMD, which I'll explain what that is in a minute here, is 2.1 inches per foot. So 2.1 inches per foot. SMD, soil moisture depletion. But it's pretty much the same thing as the MAD. So soil moisture depletion is your SMD. You'll see it a little bit, but it's not that common. So soil moisture depletion. So we want to solve for the PAW. MAD is 33%. RZ is 52 inches. SMD is 2.1 inches per foot. Now, what's the first thing you guys want to do here before you even start to solve it? Yeah, we want this RZ into feet. And so what's 52 divided by 12? 4.33. So we'll change this. You just need to go 2 decimal places. 4.33 feet. And so, do we convert to MAD? Nope, it stays as a percent. So MAD, always a percent. So we're trying to solve the PAW. Now I don't know if we had any the first module, but we're going to have to do multiple equations here to get our answer. So what's the formula we have to solve the PAW? Yep, so available water times root zone equals PAW. Now remember, we need 2 of these to solve this. We need to know 2 of the variables, 2 out of 3 to solve it. Do we have the AW? Nope. We have the RZ? We got the RZ, so we got 1. We're solving the PAW, so we need to get the AW. Now, is there an equation, and this is, let me do this real quick, guys. To get, and I'm kind of jumping the gun here, guys. Hold on a second. Let me put this up here. AW times MAD equals SMD. I can't give you an example when you don't know the equation. So add this one to your list. Available water times manageable allowable depletion gives me my soil and moisture depletion. So I'm missing the AW here, but I have the MAD and I have the SMD. So I'm going to have a second equation here. AW times MAD equals SMD. So I got the RZ already. I'm solving the PAW. I want to solve the AW. I have the MAD and I have the SMD, so I can solve the AW in this equation here. So what I'll do is I'll plug everything in. AW times my MAD, which is 0.33, equals my SMD it gave to me, 2.1 inches per foot. Now, when we have a multiplication, what's the opposite of that? Division. So we divide both sides by 0.33. So these cancel out. And what's 2.1 divided by 0.33?
15.7.
Am I doing my math here wrong? Oh, I know what I'm doing wrong here. Hold on, back up a step. I need to go back to school. Hold on. So, no, that was right. Hold on a second here. So yeah, because we got one number there. So AW times MAD 0.33 equals SMD, which is 2.1 inches per foot. We do divide by 0.33. You just got to check that math.
6.36.
There we go. You're throwing me off here, Todd. AW equals 6.36?
Yes.
6.36 inches per foot. These cancel out. We just divide the 2.1 by 0.33. So now our AW, we'll put it on the sidebar here. 6.36 inches per foot. Now we can go back to our original equation because now we have the AW, so now we can solve this. So we take the 6.36 inches per foot, RZ it gave to us already, converted it to 4.33 feet. So what's our 6.36 times 4.33?
It's 27.55.
So 27.55 inches. So what this is saying, in this root zone, about 4.5 feet, I got 6 plus inches per foot. Total available water is 27 inches of water for 4.5 feet. So takeaway here is that sometimes you're not going to have enough information to solve the original equation, so you're going to end up doing a secondary equation to get enough information. The key to this too, guys, to make these not a complete nightmare is the organization. You need to sidebar all the information that you know, and when you get new information, just put it on that sidebar, and just know that you're going to have multiple equations to solve it, and to number them. Put the first equation is always the one that is asking for, and then you can go to either second or third to get to that first one. All right, so
I
just.
like how you do the equation, it makes it a lot easier.
Well, I had to learn the hard way. But the idea is sidebar everything, and then number your equations as you do them. You won't have more than 3, but just know as we're getting into module 2 and 3 on the math, it's never just going to be one equation anymore. There'll probably be a secondary one on that, which is not super hard. You just got to give yourself room to write. So it might be easier to do this on a sheet of paper than the actual worksheet. And then make sure we just keep it organized, and then you'll be fine on that. So, all right, are we good here? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and stop there because I can see the smoke in your ears coming out. But just so you guys are tracking on the equations you guys have so far, the first one was FC minus PWP equals AW. Then we have AW times RZ equals PAW. And then this third one here, AW times MAD equals SMD. So we have 3 so far.
Hold on, 1 second.
Yep, no, well, I'm just going to erase this one because we have it here. Yep, don't worry. So, field capacity, permanent wilting point, available water, root zone, my total plant available water, and then the available water, MAD, so what I decide to let deplete will give me the amount of water that's depleted from the actual soil. Just remember, MAD always a percent, and MAD is just a choice that we make as a grower. So, all right. So like I said before, make some type of cheat sheet, put it on the first page of your notebook, just something you can refer back to. And then when we do have our final exam in forever, it's all open notes, all right? So you don't have to memorize these, all right? So the idea is in the real world, you'll have these available anyway. So, all right, any questions about these guys? We're good? Yeah.
Available water is just PAW.
Available water is just a foot.
1 foot.
PAW
One
takes into
section.
account the root zone. Yep.
That is
So, yeah. So,
PAW sections of feet.
yeah. Well, it just takes into account the fact the roots go more than a foot, which is most plants.
And when would you use one versus the other? I mean, just
Well,
the
AW is good to know, but PAW I can actually use.
Okay.
Yeah, because when I get the PAW, say it's 4 inches.
You want to know the entire plant.
Yeah, because obviously if you're only given the first foot of roots water, it's like, what's the point in that? And the PAW I can actually apply into my sprinkler timer, right? And I can use that in real time on that. So
Is there any time you specifically want to use just the AW?
no, it's just what you need to get to the PAW, right? If we don't have the AW, we can't get to the PAW, which is what I actually want. Yeah, and so in all reality, what I really want is the time. Like, how long do I kick the sprinklers on for? That's the end game on that. So, all right. I think we're good there. So what do I do too, guys? I'm going to switch gears here. So part of our overall program here is we're going to get into agribusiness. And so next week we're going to start building a business plan. All right. Some of you guys here eventually want to be self-employed, start a farm, whatever it is. So some of you might not want to, but you're going to learn anyway. How does a business, specifically a farm, actually work? Like, how do I make money from my crops? How do I pay my employees? How do I take out a loan for my equipment? What's a good loan versus a bad loan? How to know if I'm going to run out of cash? Because obviously that's a big deal. And the thing about it, as growers, do we get paid on the 1st and 15th of every month? No. Nah, not at all. We get paid when we sell our crops, and even when you sell your crops, you're still not getting paid. Because what happens when we grow the crops, we got our farm here with our row of crops. We take it to the store. It's my attempt at drawing a store. Say this is Whole Foods. We give it to them. They don't give us any cash. We just basically, they sign the PO slip, and then we usually have terms, which is usually like a net 30. And what that basically means, I grew the crops, I gave it to Whole Foods. Whole Foods signed the PO statement saying I gave it to them, so they can pay me in a month. And is there any idea on why they want to wait to pay me in a month?
To see if anybody gets sick or anything, right?
No, that's a good point though, but no. Yeah.
Or
It basically means that they want to sell it before they pay me. It's the same as you. If you buy your seedlings, your nutrients, you'd like to wait as long as you can to pay the manufacturer because you got to grow the product and sell the product. So it's really tough for business to collect right then and there because usually you have to sell what you just got. And so, point being is that these transactions, we want to understand how these work, and this becomes a big deal because say you're doing hemp, right? And we're planting in the spring. Brett, when's the best time to plant hemp in soil?
I've never done it. I've
Okay.
always grown it inside.
Okay, so I'm gonna say it's best to plant probably in April, if I had to guess. So I plant in April, and by the way, this is Brett, guys.
Yeah.
Brett, this is class. Brett, prior student of mine, but kept going to school. Just got done with a PhD in horticulture is the exact degree. So he basically knows more than I ever know, and so I usually rely on him on stuff. But the idea is that he's going to be in the horticultural world probably the rest of his life, and so. But his specialty is indoor growing on that. So
And I says April through June.
June, okay, yeah. So say we plant in April. We're forking up a bunch of money. We're paying our employees. They're doing work, pest control, so on. Say we harvest in October maybe, or is it earlier than that? Does it have it up there?
For the harvest?
Yeah. Maybe September?
no, I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm just guessing here. I just know when I think I'd harvest it.
I tried.
October?
October, okay.
Only thing I can't grow.
So, guys, so we plant in April, we harvest in October. It's got to dry, right? And so, say we're dropping it off, we'll say November, and then we're getting paid probably in January. So what happens during this whole time when I'm spending all this money
You're not getting paid.
you're not getting paid. You had to buy the seedlings, you had to buy the nutrients, medias, pest control, pruning. I mean, we'll say on 1 acre, and this on 1 acre's total guess, say we're paying, I don't know, $20K an acre. All right, this is a guess. All right. So we're paying $20K an acre. We spend all this money. We're not getting paid till January. So basically, we have what, 9 months of money just going out. So money's leaving our wallet, and so we got to figure out how to pay for that. I mean, we're gonna get hopefully a nice big check over here, but we have to cover until then. The way we figure this out is through a business plan. A business plan is going to help us look at it and be like, all right, how much money do I need here till I get paid there? And you can have a number. You'll have an exact amount because you have your labor costs, you have your expenses, your nutrients, your water, and so on. And the only way we can figure this out is either you've done it forever or you have a business plan to tell you, all right, well, you're going to need $8,400 a month until you get paid. And you want to figure it out because if you're going to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into a farm, you need to know when do I get paid, because you're still going to have problems. All right. So, but the idea is that let me get an educated guess: is this actually going to work, based off the fact that here's what I'm going to spend and here's what I'll get paid on that. And so, the business plan is going to have some major parts to it. It's going to have what we call the plan side. This is like the story of the farm or the company. You know, we're a veteran-owned farm based out of LA County, focusing on organic produce that we donate 20% to homeless veterans or something. There's a story behind it. This is the plan side. It'll have the company overview and so on. It'll have who's part of the team. It's just the story of it. Then you have the forecast side. The forecast side is the money side. So this is the side that I think is just as important as the story side, if not more important, because that lets you know, well, am I going to make any money? Am I going to go broke? It just tells you how the company is going to function financially. And as we all know, we've all had jobs, and so this is very important. We need to know how many bills we got, how much we're going to make on our salary, how much I got to pay for childcare, everything. And then if it's like, all right, well, if I have too many bills and I'm not making enough money, I need to either lower my bills or make more money. And so it works the same way for a business. So you have your plan side and your forecast side. And so what we're going to do is we're going to be using a software called Live Plan, which I'm going to give you guys accounts here next week. You can check it out online if you want to. But Live Plan is a business plan software, because before you had Live Plan, the way you did a business plan was just through Excel. You would just do Excel sheets, which no one wants to do that now. There's nothing really fun about that. But Live Plan assumes you know nothing about a business. It'd be like step 1, you do this, step 2, and so on. So we'll set these up probably next week or the week after that. And what's going to happen is we're going to do certain chapters of the business plan throughout the week. So when we get to the end of the course, you have a full plan. All right, whether you decide to burn it or try to find a loan to start your farm, that's up to you. But the idea is you'll go through the steps and know how a business plan works. Because even if you decide, hey, I just want to get employment, I want to run a farm, well, you have to understand how the finances work on the farm, all right, especially if you want to stay open. And so when it comes to the forecast side, you got three main statements is what they call them. You have your profit and loss statement, and you have your balance sheet. Anybody have a guess on the last one? And you have your cash flow. So any business that's traded on the stock market, you can look these up because it's open to the market. So, any guess on what the profit and loss statement will tell you?
How much you bringing in and out?
There you go. It tells you mainly if you made any money or not. All right. And so, profit and loss statement is actually that. It either shows your profit or loss. So it has your revenue, expenses, and so on. Very basic view of the company itself. Pretty easy to understand. The balance sheet. Anybody here ever buy a house or a condo?
Yes.
Okay. So let me write this out here. The formula is assets minus liability equals equity. Okay. So a balance sheet will have this. On a farm, what's an example of an asset? Tractor. Anything else?
The land.
Land is the biggest one, right?
Yeah. Well,
Just think any equipment, really.
any-
Your greenhouse, shovels,
yeah.
um,
You got
I guess it's all depends.
animals and stuff or anything, right?
animals.
It depends on if you own it or not.
Well, if the business owns it, right? If you're leasing it, it's not really yours, so it's not really an asset. But we're assuming we own the land and we're starting a farm. So the balance sheet's going to have our assets on it. We like assets because we usually need them to operate, but also they depreciate, which we'll get into what that means. But the idea is that assets are a huge part of it. When you're buying a home, what's the asset? Oh, sorry, I just can't give you the answer. When you're actually the house is the actual asset. When you buy a house, what's the liability?
You losing your job, right?
No, I think of it as not in the sense of you're going to get hurt, but what's the downside of buying a home?
The economy.
Is the mortgage. Yeah. So think of the mortgage. So the home in this transaction, the home is the asset. The liability is the debt, right? And then we always want this, right? We want equity in our home. So it's the same in the farm. The farm has assets, farm has debt, and ideally, you probably won't have a lot of equity in the beginning of a farm because you're paying for so much stuff to get started. But ideally, there needs to be equity in the farm eventually. All right, and so your balance sheet will tell you this, and this is super important because if you ever want to get funding from a bank to help with the farm, they're going to want to see this sheet for sure. Be like, all right, if you have some assets, but you're $2 million in debt, I'm not giving you any more debt on that. So the balance sheet will tell you this. The last one here, which I actually think is the most important one, is the cash flow.
How much debt coming in and out?
That's exactly what it is. It's the flow of the cash. All right. Now, when we use that example of the hemp farm, which direction is their cash going the first 9 months? It's going out. You're just spending money. And so if you spent that 20K, say with the hemp farm, we spent 20K those 9 months, which is obviously going to be really low. It's probably more like 200K if I had to guess. Say it was 200K. I know that I need to take out a loan to cover the 200K. Even if it's your own cash, the business will take a loan from you. I need to take a loan for the 200K to cover me until I get paid. All right. The cash flow statement will tell me that. The 200K won't be a guess. I'll actually have a number based off all my expenses that it says, all right, based off your cell phone expenses, your labor expenses, your fuel, your transportation, it'll say you need 212K until you get paid. And so now you know what you need to get up front, whether it's through investments, debt, or your own cash before or for the business to actually work. And you might find out too that hey, to do this hemp farm, it's actually going to cost me $660K to keep it afloat for 9 months. And then you're like, I'm not doing it. It's not worth the risk. And that's a good thing too, is you see, hey, it's too much upfront money. The market's too volatile. The changes and what they're paying per CBD, percentage point versus pound and so on, that I'm not going to take that risk. And so at the same time, your business plan I know it'll be helpful in the sense of maybe this is a bad idea. And so either way, point being is that your cash flow is going to tell you that if you write checks, if they're going to bounce or not. All right. It's the same way for your personal expenses. You have your paycheck, you have your mortgage, you have your daycare, food. that's all cash flow. It's coming in, it's going out, and then obviously, if your cash flow is negative, say you get fired from your job, you now have no more cash coming in, but if you have savings, you're going to be okay until you find another job. Same with the company. The company goes through a lull. As long as there's cash in the bank, you're going to be fine for so long. And the cash flow statement is what's going to tell you that. All right. So these 3 statements, if you guys ever submit an application to get a loan, either through the USDA or SBA or whoever, they're going to see these. These will be 80% of the application. All right, they'll have like, here's our farm, here's our address, here's why we're amazing, and then they're like, all right, show me the numbers, and then you'll give them these 3 statements. And so the idea is when you guys do your live plan, these 3 statements will be probably 70% of the actual plan itself on that. So just kind of be aware on that. The numbers, you can't get away from, whether it's doing math or doing financial statements, it's going to be there. So just know we'll do those statements throughout the next few months here, and then ideally when you guys get done here, you guys can, if you do want to get a loan, you can seek a loan. And on that note, if you guys do want to start the business, say you decide, hey, I want to start growing okra and eggplant or something, the USDA has its own bank. They're called the FSA. So Farm Service Agency. So they're basically the lending arm of the USDA. The USDA does a bunch of stuff, right? They have their conservation side. They have their advocacy side. The FSA is their lending side, all right? I'm going to give you guys 3 loans that a lot of the graduates that I work with will use when they get done with whatever course they're actually doing. And these loans are either going to be broken up into 2 boxes. You have your operations loan, and then you have your ownership loan. Any idea on the difference? One is to buy a farm, and one is to pay for equipment, or any type of expense. All right. What's an example of an operations expense? Any guess is probably right.
Irrigation.
To run it, like the water. Okay. Yep. What's that? Seeds?
Tractor?
No, think of stuff we just need to run the business with.
Oh.
Fuel? Yep. Any other ones?
Feed. Plants.
Yeah. Well, think of stuff that's going to be used, right? Not so. If we bought, olive trees, it's a little different box to go into. But think of just the monthly expenses.
Electricity.
Yep. Your power, operations. It could be your salary, operate the loan, or the farm. Just anything that's basically, it's anything that's not the actual farm itself. All right. So think like this: that operations can pay for a lease. It can pay for a tractor. It can pay for fuel. It can pay for cell phone costs and so on. Operations loan comes in 2 sizes. It has the micro loan and just a regular one. I'll call it the regular. The micro loan is up to $50K. All right, the regular one is up to, I think it's up to $400K. So if you were looking like, hey, I really want to do a greenhouse, the greenhouse is $78K, you would be in this section here. So the regular. Microloan process is a lot faster. All right. The idea of the microloan is, hey, I just need a loan to get a tractor. I don't want to go through a 40-page application. They have a streamlined one. So $50K. And then obviously the terms are important, right? The microloan is 7 years or the length of your lease on the land. So say I'm leasing property for 5 years, the terms can be up to those 60 months. They're not going to give you a loan on for a farm that you're not going to control after the fact. So it makes sense. So up to 7 years or the length of your lease. If you own the farm, you can do the 7 years, or you own the land. The interest rates, I probably have to double check, but I want to say they're around 5%. I think it's like 5.4 or something. 5%. Now compare that to if we went to the say we went to the SBA to get a loan for the farm, I think they're like 8 points plus prime maybe or something. SBA is probably going to be between 8 and 12%. Is that a good rate for a loan? No, it's a credit card really at that point. And it all depends on obviously the current market, but the idea is SBA will fund startups that have a hard time getting financing, but they're super expensive. All right. If you've never taken out a loan, over 50K, every half point matters really. And if it's a house, every tenth of a point matters. But the idea is that these interest rates are a big deal. SBA, super helpful, but the rates are kind of high. If you're going to be growing or producing something in the ag world, the FSA is the way to go. 5%, it's probably 5.3 if I had to guess right now. Is the interest rate over 7 years, and then up to 50K. Now this one, they want you to have 1 year of experience in farming or education. If you guys do want to apply for this loan, let me know after the class, and we can probably find a way to get that 1 year. Most of you, well, everybody here was in the military, so everybody here make it to E5 or no? Or close to? No? Okay. If you made it to E5 or higher, that will count towards your 1 year. If you didn't, I didn't make the E5 either, we can figure out a different way for you to get the 1 year experience. Point being is this one is accessible to probably everybody here if they want to apply for it on that. The other difference between the micro loan and the regular size with the 400K, this one, I think it's up to 20 years to pay back, which is obviously better when you're taking that loan that big. Same interest rate, 5%, and then the same with the 1 year. All right. The main difference here is the payment terms, because they're obviously taking a lot larger loan. The largest loan I've seen from a graduate is 287, which I think is a lot, but it was to buy a greenhouse. I don't know why he bought a new truck, but bought a truck, and I think it was too much too early, which is why the farm shut down. But the idea is if we can do it the lower amount, because debt's fine if it's a manageable amount. And I think one of the problems when you're dealing in the business of food is there's so many things that can go wrong. Yes. Either the ports they're on strike, so you can't send your product out. Pest issue, it's too hot. I think in Europe right now it's like 115 degrees or something. So, but the idea is there's so many variables. If you got to take out debt, try to keep as minimum debt as you can, but obviously enough to keep it going. And so operation, two sizes, microloan or regular, up to 400K, 20-year payback, 5%, 1 year experience. Microloan is the quick shop loan, 50K, 7 years length, 5%, and the 1 year experience. So this is everything except for buying land. All right. Anything you could think of to operate a farm can fall into this box. The ownership loan, I think it's up to 600. This only has one size. So this one is up to 600K. The terms can be 30 to 40 years.
That's a damn house.
No, well, you're buying a farm, it probably has a house on it. Yeah. So 30 to 40 years. 40 years probably sounds good, but you just pay more interest, so it might not be actual lower payment in the end.
So you're going down south.
What's that?
Probably going down south.
For what? For that amount, or?
Yeah, for the owner, like you said, you buying a farm with a house on it.
Yeah. And then, as you guys probably know, 600K out here, I'm not going to buy a whole lot. It might buy that house, right? Right, Rob?
Well, you can actually go to Marietta.
You can keep going. Yeah, just go a little more east. So, but the idea is 600K, 30 to 40 years. The interest rate, I want to say, is pretty comparable to the mortgage rate right now. I think this is like maybe 5.5.
Yeah, 5.8. Something.
Is it 5.8? Okay, yeah, 5.8%. And then experience for this one though is they want 3 years. So you get 1 year from the military, or the thing about it is when they talk about that experience, it can be military experience, farming experience. If you're a business owner, that counts. If you went to any type of higher education, that counts. So there's a bunch of things you can look at to see if you can get that experience on that. And so It's not like you have to have had a farm for 3 years. And then if you're like, hey, I want to do the ownership, but the 600K is just not worth it, they joint finance. And so if you ever wanted to, the USDA or the FSA will work with a commercial bank, and they'll do up to, I think, 1.4 million. So it's one of those things that if you're like, hey, I found a vineyard, 1.2 million, I got a good business plan, the USDA will do joint financing with your bank or to fund the project on that. So the 600 doesn't cover it, they do go above it on that. So I don't really I haven't had anybody that I've taught ever do that much that early, especially because you don't know if it works yet or not. But these two are pretty common. We've had a lot of students do these loans here. And if you're gonna lease land, this loan will work too, because your lease payment can be part of that too. So yeah. So these are the main two. FSA has other loans. They have conservation loans. They have emergency loans. They have this is just a list of loans. And so these are probably the ones that actually would apply to you guys if you decide to start the business. And then if you can start the business with 20K, the microloan's a perfect way to go. The only thing is, though, is the FSA wants you to have been denied from a commercial bank. All right, so Chase, Bank of America, wherever. They want to be your last resort for funding. As a startup, you're almost guaranteed to get denied, because Chase, Bank of America, they're not going to want to deal with the risk. Because if you have a business you're starting, excuse me, and you don't have any prior financial statements or taxes filed, you're a huge risk, because we don't even know if it works or not. And so getting denied is not really a problem on that. So once you're denied, you get that. Just say, hey, can you put that in a letter for me? You can go apply with the USDA with their loans. Now they'll fund almost any business ag-related, but they won't do consulting. You need to be making something tangible, all right? Whether it's growing cotton, whether it's growing soybeans, whether it's tomatoes, whether it's making compost. You need to be making something for this to actually work on that. So yeah. Okay. Any questions about these? Yeah. They're pretty straightforward. Now you're saying, well, if I have my own cash, well, what if I just want to pay for it yourself? Well, that's fine, but the thing about it is, and we won't get too far into it right now, but when you set up your business, if you're ever going to invest your own stuff into the farm, you need to be giving the farm a loan. All right, so see the farm or the business as a separate person. It's not really you. And the reason you want to do that is that if you ever want to take the money back out, it's a legal way to do it, because it's paying back the debt. If you give the business a bunch of money and it's not an actual loan, if you take out, say that 50,000, just say, hey, we made 100K, I took the 50K out, I gave it back to myself, well, you're going to pay taxes on that, because you're taking a disbursement from the company versus paying down debt. And so, point being is that the company itself, see it as a separate person. So if you're gonna drive your car for the company, if you're gonna use your gas, you're gonna give it some money, see it as always like a loan to that thing, whatever you want to call it on that. So always see a company as a separate person in a way on that. So kind of just a side note on that. Any questions at all, guys? Kind of a lot to digest, but the idea is whether you're going to run a farm or start a farm, you got to understand how it actually runs, and it's usually all about the money when it comes to staying open. This farm is kind of an anomaly because it's owned by the VA. It can't make any money, so it doesn't have operating expenses really. It doesn't have like fuel expenses. There's no water bill. So here, it's not a great example, but the idea is that most farms will have water bills and have power bills and so on. And so yeah. All right. Any last questions, guys? No?
Module 2 is going to be active.
What's that?
Module 2 is going to be.
Yeah. I'll open that up. So, I'll take up your module 1 matches. Make sure your name is on all the sheets, so I can keep them in order. And then I'll take those up. And then let me go ahead and stop this record.